All right. Hello, welcome to the next group session. My name is Kevin Parker. Today I'm going to be talking about the dynamic between high roll and tempo, or playing for high roll and playing for tempo. Because especially this set, I feel like oftentimes you're confronted with either having to go for direct resources or going for like some sort of high roll, especially with the boons. We'll get into that later. Yeah, that's going to be the topic of the day. So first, a few things about me. I already showed this last time when I did a group session, but just so you get familiar with me, if you don't know me yet, I've been playing TFT since set 1, reached Challenger every set, started playing competitively in set 6, and ever since then, I've qualified to 5 regional finals, with this set being the 5th, and in 2 of those, I made final lobby. Hopefully, gonna make 3 out of that this set. Besides that, I finished second in the Vegas Open, the first of the big open tournaments at the end of the year. Qualified to Worlds for the first time in set 13. And I also created a TFT fundamentals course on a German website called Players Hub. And yeah, I'm also a Twitch and League partner. So much about me. Get into today's topic. So the premise of this topic today is going to be basically, in an average game of TFT, you get your resources, you get orbs with 2 or 3 costs in them, and you try to play around those. Find one cost with the traits that fit to them, and play an early game board around some of those units. But sometimes in TFT, you don't get units, you get orb, or you get gold instead. And in those games, it's going to be pretty hard to actually play a good early game because people are just going to have better units than you. So, especially when you don't have a slam and you don't have an opener to play for, there is some sort of game plan you have to come up with. So, usually in those types of games, you have 2 paths to go down. The one path is trying to play a reroll comp, which spikes at 3-2 or 3-5 to stop the bleeding after your bad opener. Or you can go for the more risky route, which is trying to go level 8 and playing around a 4-cost comp, which is a lot riskier because you're going to be stacking a lot more HP than when you're playing reroll. So when you're playing for level 8, really, really maximize that econ as hard as you can. Usually try to go 5 loss unless you have a board to play for after the carousel. Because if you don't maximize your econ, it's going to be really hard to upgrade those forecasts at level 8. So it's going to be harder for you to stabilize. So really try to maximize that econ as hard as you can with augments and traits. And additionally, usually you have to find like some sort of high value combat power, like artifacts, emblems, anima items, radiant items, etc. Because basically, since the last sets, like last set and this set, there's not that many like strong default comps to play towards that are unconditional. So usually you must like find 1 or 2 conditions to play into a certain line. And if you don't have that at 2-1, you're going to have to find that later. So this is a lot riskier than like going for specific components, rolling at 3-2, have all your items slammed, playing around like a 2 or 3 cost reroll comp. When you're going level 8, you're either going to have to stabilize at some point in stage 3 or 10 loss, which obviously is very first or 8th-y, so definitely a lot riskier. And if you play reroll from a weak opener, you're just going to want to take item boons as much as you can, item boons, item augments, to try and stabilize as hard as possible on stage 3. And there's no need to go for like high variance augments, like say branching out or spreading roots, if you're already committed to a line, because there's only so many good emblems that a certain comp can use. So you have a solid option to go for, you should always go for the solid option from a weak opener and not try to gamble even harder unless you are just completely trying to flip your game. So let's get more into the weak opener and how to capitalize on it, because you know, when I coach people, people oftentimes panic when their opener is bad. They're losing a lot of HP early game. Their items are ambiguous. They don't know what they should play this game. So the best thing you can do is maximize your resources, as I said earlier. So secure 5 loss if you have to. That means if you can go 3 loss into 2 win, I usually prefer that over going 5 loss if I know that I'm going to have a board to play in stage 3, which if you win 2 fights in stage 2, there's a good chance of that. So yeah. Besides that, you should try to look for strong bailout augments at 3-2 if needed. You know, if your item situation isn't looking good after Krugs, even after opening your component anvils, you're going to need to high roll somehow because you lost a lot of HP early game. And as I said, most comps rely on having like something special, some sort of like higher power than others. So excuse me. So you're going to need some juice for your comp, right? Especially when playing from lost streak. So try to like look for emblem augments if you have to. Like if your spot isn't looking good enough, you can definitely like take all the gambles you can get, like emblems, artifacts. You can also, which is what I would usually do if I was 5 loss in stage 2, I would hold as few units as possible at 3-1 so that I can get restart mission at 3-2, which is going to give you a lot of gold if you're not holding a lot of gold, and it is going to stabilize you for stage 3 as well. So that is like the #1 best augment you can get from a early loss streak. So I would always try to play for that if possible. If you're already holding a lot of units, because you know maybe you were trying to assemble a stage 3 board, you can also play for Dumbify. So you want especially 2 bruiser and like as many bruisers as possible. Those have the highest HP, and then you can go for Dumbify and have a very high HP frontliner, which is going to be pretty strong at level 8 for a silver augment. The only thing that lights with that is it costs a lot of money, so you have to make sure that your econ situation is not damaged too much if you do click this augment. The last thing is magic roll. There's just some egregious high rolls off of that augment, like the 4 components, 4 copies of the same component, the pile of champions that can stabilize you really hard. You can also get a fawn, so there are quite some high rolls from that augment. So yeah, if your spot is not good, I would definitely recommend clicking that. So I already talked about this one last time, but like hold Primordian, Timebreaker, and Anima units, because those units give you the most econ and resources to work with. You know, if you're going to be losing all of your early game rounds and mid game rounds anyways, you're going to want to maximize your resources, and this is the best way to do so. Another thing is if you're playing reroll and roll at 3-2, like it's going to be really easy to stabilize at 3-2 if most of the other lobby is trying to go for like level 8/9 comps. So if you do see that no one's playing reroll, no one's going to be rolling in stage 3, you can just roll for your 2 stars. You know, let's say you're playing Jinx, you roll for Rek'Sai 2, Bel'Veth 2, Jinx 2, and then usually you're already going to be stable against someone that didn't roll stage. Another thing you can do when you're playing for level 8 especially is take like scaling augments and boons. Like for example, Care Package is a good one. The Echo boons that, like for example, the gain an artifact after 8 rounds. We're going to get into the high variance boons later. But when you when your spot is looking bad, you really want to be going for those high variance boons because they give you a chance to bail you out. Same for the ASOL emblem one. Sometimes you only need like one good emblem or artifact to have good direction and have a straight game plan and make the game a lot easier for yourself from that point. So, as per usual, when you're playing TFT, make sure to play an uncontested line. It's like a general rule in any TFT game because, yeah, you want to maximize your chances to hit. If you are contested, you should pay attention to when the other person is rolling and if you can roll before them, but don't roll if you don't have enough gold to roll before them. You know, like if you don't have enough gold to 4-1 it, don't do it. Alright, next we're gonna talk about how to capitalize on a strong opener. This is especially about tempo, whereas playing from a weak opener is more about playing for high rolls. So when you have a strong opener, you basically wanna go for immediate power as much as you can. The biggest thing is like item boons. Items are the best way, the most consistent way to get power onto your board. Even if it's even if you take a rod and you play an AD comp, you can still make a crown guard for your early game, you know, stuff like that. So like Kale boon, Soraka boon, those give components early, pretty often. Those are really good. And if there is going to be a combat or item boon and you don't take it and others do, you are likely to get out-tempoed throughout this stage or the next. So when you should really play for streak if you think your opener is strong, and play your best board at all times. So that means you shouldn't like go for the high variance boons and augments as much, because if you gamble for an emblem when your spot is already good, you take an emblem augment, you miss, and then all of a sudden you're down an augment and your spot is looking a lot worse than it was before. So make sure that when your game plan is already clear, there is no need to take unnecessary risks, and you should just go for the solid options that are going to push your game plan even more. Other thing when you have a strong opener is you're not going to get item anvils off of PvE rounds. So you're kind of going to have to adapt to your item drops at Krugs and Wolves. So the best thing you can do when you have a strong opener is make frontline items first, and then figure out later what you're going to get into. If you have an upgraded frontliner, a frontline item is the best item you can make in pretty much any scenario. And yeah, the only thing is sometimes it can be difficult to like find direction later if you don't have carry items early. So don't commit every component for a frontline item. Don't do that either. You also need to get carry items at some point. Yeah. Another thing is if you are playing a level 8 comp from tempo, which is usually what you're going to do, you should try not to overroll on level 8. Like sometimes I see people like 10 streak and then they lose 4-1 and then they roll at 4-2 and they just roll to true 0 for multiple rounds. So they have like 90 HP or close to 90 HP and they just roll to 0 because they want to spike. But like you have all the time in the world, right? If you save that much HP early, you should like keep at least some econ, try to have something in the back pocket, because when you're high HP, you're more likely to play for the higher placements. So you have to greed, you always have to greed at some point in the game. If you don't greed at the start because your opener is weak, you know, you're going to greed later if your opener was strong early. So yeah, just make sure not to like roll to true 0 unless you have like everything paired and you're close to many different spikes. Try to stabilize on like 1-star forecasts and then maybe you scam around here and there without having to roll to true 0. So definitely try to pay attention to that, because when you do roll to 0 at level 8, your chances to high roll and win the game become a lot lower, right? Like the worse your econ is, like econ management especially, the lower your chances of winning the game. Another thing is if you 10 streak, you can actually try to play for a fast 9 and win the game. Usually, if you go down this like full tempo path, you're not going to win the game. But if you can convert it to a high cap board, playing like fast 9, you can definitely win the game. You just need to make sure that there's like no big resources that you missed out on. Like for example, if there were artifacts or emblems from boons, those are always going to swing the lobby pretty hard. So if you didn't take those and aimed for, let's say, a component instead, you're probably not going to win the game, realistically. So just, remind yourself of what your highest placement can be and what you need to do to get there. Yeah, these are like the boons that I wanted to focus in on a bit. Especially the Echo and Evelyn boons are like very high variance. And oftentimes you're going to have to make the decision to either take one of these boons or take, something solid, like let's say random thresh boon. Usually that's like 6 gold or a dupe and 3 gold, or like some sort of consistent value. Whereas these can oftentimes get you into a very, very favorable spot, and other times they are going to give you absolutely nothing. Like, for example, after 3 rounds, gain a 4 cost. For most comps, there's only like 3 to 4 forecasts you can use at best. And if you get anything else, you're down a boon, basically. Like, you only got 4 gold for your boon, which is going to be a lot lower value than someone who took an item or, say, a dupe for their reroll comp or something else. So yeah, this, especially like this Echo after 3 rounds gain a 4 cost boon. Not the biggest fan of that one. I think you should only take that when your squad is like kind of homeless and you need some sort of direction, or if you're playing towards, let's say, Master Yi from Lost Streak, which is already not the greatest game plan, but let's say just hypothetically you're doing that. If you get the Master Yi from the boon, obviously you're going to be really happy. If you get anything else, you're usually not going to be very happy. Like Kindred and Tahm Kench are fine, but they don't stabilize you as hard in the mid game as Master Yi does. So you also have to ask yourself, how much does a forecast that fits onto my board later even do for me right now? Like the same thing with the Evelyn boon, where you get a random 1-star forecast and lose 4 health. That one you even lose 4 health. So you're going to really have to think hard about these and think what the chances are of this being actually worth it. Same thing with like the gain a 2-star 2 cost, lose 3 health. Same thing with the Varus boon, actually, that gives you a full 3 cost job. Because even if you're playing a 3 cost reroll comp, let's say Misfortune, that comp plays Misfortune, Rast, Maokai, and Ornn and Urgot on the board. So if you hit some of those, you're probably going to be happy. But if you hit Rast, for example, Rast is not going to give you all that much on stage 2. So, you need to like think about realistically how much is this actually going to give me, and how likely is it to give me anything good. If you have like 3 cost pairs, I think that's like the situation where this boon is like the most attractive. When you have like MF pair, let's say, with items on it, obviously an MF2 in stage 2 is going to spike you pretty hard. But yeah, there's a lot of 3 costs in the game, just like there's a lot of 4 costs in the game. You can always miss, and then you're going to be very unhappy because you didn't get anything for your boon, basically, other than 3 gold or 4 gold. So yeah, this is what I was talking about when I meant like try to go for immediate spikes and like guaranteed resources, like consistent resources, um, especially when you're playing a strong opener. Like you can definitely throw your game by quite a lot if you take unnecessary risks and low roll. So these are like the boons I would try to pay attention to the most. Like for example, a random emblem for 3 tacticians health can be good if you have other emblems and a reforger, but if you have neither of those things, a random emblem with no reforger, like the chances of that giving you something that you can actually use well are usually very low, right? So, but again, if you're like in a homeless spot and you need to high roll something, yeah, these are like some of the boons that can bail you out of your miserable spot. Right. I wrote down some guidelines for like this theory, like the dynamic between high roll and tempo. Um, the first thing you want to do every game, this is like the most important thing of any game of TFT, is you want to find direction as soon as possible. Like Lex TFT is kind of dead in that sense. Like back in the day, you used to make items for multiple carries and then just play whatever you hit. Those times are kind of over. You kind of need like specific items for most comps. Um, like Corki needs his Death Blade and his Last Whisper. Zaya needs her Red Buff and her Kraken. Like, what else are you going to play with those items, right? Like, if you itemize for Corki, it's really hard to get into another line. If you itemize for Zaya, it's very hard to get into another line. So you don't want to stay flexible throughout the game. You want to find direction that is going to make you commit to a comp as fast as possible. 3-2 at the latest. Like if you haven't decided at 3-2 what you're going to play, your game's just going to be really, really hard. Because as soon as you know what you play, you know what early game units to play around for the trade web. Um, you know what to hold. You can econ better because of that as well. So yeah, always try to find direction as early as you can, and then you can figure out if you need to or if you can play for high rolls or if you should just play for tempo. Um, and yeah, as I said earlier, if you do go for like high variance plays, like taking one of the boons from the slide earlier, you can get punished really hard if you took it for fun, basically. Like if you need to take it, sure, but you can't really complain if you miss, because at the end of the day, you are taking a gamble, and you only need to go for gambles if your spot is not good yet. So yeah, kind of repeating myself here. So yeah, another thing I was talking about like earlier, when you have a weak opener, that I prefer going like 3 loss into 2 win. I think if like once you can actually play a good board, let's say after carousel at 2-5, you shouldn't just keep playing a weaker board just to go for that 5 loss streak. If you think you can win the next 2 rounds, like I think 3 loss into 2 win is perfectly fine. You only lose out on a little bit of gold, and you gain gold for winning the rounds. So it's almost the same amount of gold, really. You should only try to like secure that 5 loss streak if you think you're going to like keep losing next stage as well. But for example, if you were playing 3 Primordian from 2-1, there's going to come the point where you have Rek'Sai 2, you have Briar 2, and then all of a sudden you find an Urgot in your shop for Brawler, Marauder, and then you already have a pretty solid board to play throughout the early and mid game. So like that is the point when you should scout and see, okay, can I win 2 rounds here? Because if I can, I should play for a strong board and not actually like full greed for this 5 loss. Because again, it's not going to ruin your econ that hard, and HP is just another resource like gold. So try to make sure to have as many resources as you can. So when you get 2 and 3 costs from your orbs in stage 1, you really have to think about if you should sell those units for gold. Like, let's say it's an econ opener and you think, oh, none of these 2 or 3 costs are that interesting to me. I don't think they're going to make me that strong in the early game. You should really think twice about that, because I think there's, especially 3 costs, there's a lot of good ones right now to play around. And even if not for tempo, you should definitely hold like the anima 3 costs and stuff like that. So I would say these days it's usually wrong to sell for 10 gold unless you got an orb with only 6 gold in it and no units, you know, like that type of scenario. Like, you only see 1 cost in your shops, you don't get any 2 or 3 costs dropped, you don't hit any upgrades. That is the point when you can actually say, okay, I'm going to make 10 because I know I'm not going to be able to play for a board here. Alright, so then just to hammer home the point from earlier, if you think your spot is that bad, you should go for any gamble you can. That includes like the Evelyn and Echo boons, because those can actually bail you out. And yeah, if you don't have any tempo early, you're going to need to play for high rolls, because you're going to have to be, you know, the pressure to be strong in stage 4 is a lot higher if you were not strong in stage 2 and 3. So pay attention to that. Alright, last thing I wanted to say about this topic is like, basically it's like two different play styles, 2 different goals. If you're playing for tempo as hard as you can, you're usually not going to win the game, because you don't take risks, and sometimes, you know, people do take risks, obviously, and they hit like a crazy emblem combination or the perfect artifact for their comp or whatever, and they're going to outcap you. So you're usually not going to win the game. A good example of that is like Corki. Like, Corki is like the true tempo Timmy comp of the last few patches, where you just send it to 0 on 8 for your top 4, and then you get the fuck out. Oh, excuse me. And yeah, the people that go for like the gamble augments and boons, you know, if they miss, they're gonna go bottom 2. If they hit, they're going to go top 2. So that is the gamble you take. So yeah, it kind of depends on your play style, which one of these you prefer. Like, especially when you have a weak opener. I think usually it's more consistent to play for reroll if your opener is weak. But there's only so many reroll comps in the game, and sometimes people have better spots than you. So it can sometimes be very difficult to find an easy path to go down. And that is the point when you must flip absolutely everything to get into some sort of high roll spot. And yeah, I think that this is like the most important skill in TFT, is figuring out what you need to do to get a good placement, depending on your spots, looking at the tools that you're given. That includes like Stargazer Constellation, psionic items, augments, boons, unit drops, matchmaking in the early game, all of that stuff. There's infinite angles to TFT, so yeah, it's important to try to keep a cool head and figure it out. And yeah, always try to think about what the gods are in any given game, and if they allow you to high roll. For example, the Echo, Evelyn, and Asol boons, like the Asol emblem one, is the one I didn't include. And that one can definitely bail you out into a high roll spot. And yeah, pay attention to the gods and the encounter, and besides that, figure out your best spot. That's about it. Thank you.